This story is part of a new collection about the women of the American Revolution. These women were not included in the original book, but their courage, sacrifice, and service to the cause of American independence deserve to be remembered and shared. Sarah Osborn Benjamin fed Continental soldiers during the siege of Yorktown. Sarah Osborn Benjamin's story survives because, more than half a century after the American Revolution, she described her wartime service under oath. By then, she was an elderly woman living in Wayne County, Pennsylvania, and seeking the pension allowed to widows of Revolutionary soldiers. Her 1837 deposition reached backward through years of hardship to the Continental Army's final great campaign. During the war, she was known as Sarah Osborn, the wife of soldier Aaron Osborn. She did not carry a musket or hold a military rank. She cooked, washed, mended, traveled with the troops, and carried provisions where they were desperately needed. At Yorktown, while artillery sounded across the siege lines, she brought beef, bread, and coffee to exhausted men in the trenches. Her testimony preserves the voice of a woman who understood that an army could not fight unless someone also kept it fed. Sarah met Aaron Osborn during the severe winter of 1780 while she was working in the Albany home of blacksmith John Willis. Aaron had already served in the Continental Forces and was again preparing for military duty with the 3rd New York Regiment. They married in Willis's house, but their new life offered little domestic security. Aaron was assigned to commissary guard duty, protecting and moving the Army's food and supplies. He wanted Sarah to accompany him. She initially resisted the idea of leaving with the troops, but Aaron insisted that he could not leave her behind and promised that she could travel by sleigh, horseback, or wagon when transportation was available. Her decision placed her inside the Army's moving community among soldiers, officers, laborers, wagoners, and the small number of wives permitted to follow the regiments. The journey carried Sarah through a chain of military posts and cities that revealed the enormous geography of the war. From Albany, she traveled across the Hudson River to Fishkill and then toward West Point, where the Continental Army guarded the strategic highlands. The regiment later moved south through Philadelphia and Baltimore before joining the Allied campaign in Virginia. Travel was slow and physically demanding. Roads turned to mud, wagons broke down, weather shifted, and military orders could change without warning. Sarah had no independent pay and little control over the route, yet the Army depended on women like her at every stop. They prepared meals, washed clothing, repaired torn garments, tended children, and helped maintain the daily order of camps that could otherwise collapse into hunger, dirt, and confusion. Near Philadelphia, several Quaker women saw Sarah's difficult circumstances and urged her to remain behind. They offered her shelter rather than watch her continue with an army moving toward danger. Sarah's own recollection suggests that she might have accepted, but Aaron refused to leave her. The episode reveals how narrow her choices could be. A soldier's wife who followed the army faced exposure, disease, fatigue, and enemy fire. A woman who separated from her husband risked poverty and abandonment. Sarah continued south, carrying out the work expected of camp women while enduring the uncertainty shared by the rank and file. Her presence was not an adventure added to the margins of the campaign. It was part of the labor system that allowed the Continental Army to move hundreds of miles and remain in the field. By late September 1781, American and French forces had enclosed the British Army commanded by Lord Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. Thousands of Allied soldiers built trenches, batteries, and fortified lines while French warships helped block escape by sea. Sarah and other women remained behind the American tents, roughly a mile from the town, where they washed, mended, and cooked. The siege demanded relentless labor. Soldiers dug through damp earth, hauled fascines and artillery, stood guard, and endured British cannon fire. Food issued through the commissary still had to be prepared before it could sustain them. Sarah saw men returning from duty hungry and exhausted, and she recognized a practical emergency. Winning the siege required more than strategy and gunpowder. It required hot food delivered to men who could not simply leave the trenches to cook for themselves. Sarah joined other women in preparing beef, bread, and coffee, then carried the provisions forward in a large kettle and containers. The route to the trenches exposed her to the same artillery that threatened the working parties. During one trip, she encountered General George Washington, who asked whether she was afraid of the cannonballs. Sarah answered with characteristic bluntness that it would not do for the men to fight and starve too. Her reply was not a grand speech invented for a monument. It came from the logic of necessary work. The soldier's duty was to maintain the siege. Hers was to make that endurance possible. Each trip joined the Army's formal supply system to the final yards between camp kitchens and hungry troops, where regulations and wagons alone could not deliver a meal. On October 19, 1781, the meaning of the long campaign suddenly became clear in the sound of drums and cheering officers. Sarah remembered men swinging their hats and shouting after the British agreed to surrender. When she asked what had happened, a soldier teasingly wondered whether she was soldier enough to understand. The answer was victory. Cornwallis's army had capitulated. Sarah later walked through Yorktown and observed the damaged town and abandoned British positions. Her recollection also preserved disturbing evidence of war's human cost, including dead Black people. She was told the British had driven from their lines during the siege. Her account, therefore, offers more than a triumphant ending. It records celebration, destruction, suffering, and the perspective of a working woman who witnessed the surrender from inside the Army's world. Victory did not immediately release Sarah from military life. She followed the troops north and spent additional time near West Point and New Windsor, while the war slowly came to an end. During the years surrounding her service, she bore children and continued the combined labor of motherhood and camp support. Peace brought a different kind of insecurity. Aaron eventually abandoned Sarah and their children, and she discovered that he was living with another woman. The Army community that had supplied rations and a place, however difficult, no longer protected her. Sarah later married John Benjamin, another Revolutionary veteran, and settled in Pennsylvania. Her post-war experience reflected a reality shared by many veterans' families. Independence had been won, but wages, pensions, property, and personal stability remained painfully uncertain. In November 1837, Sarah appeared before the Court of Common Pleas in Wayne County to make her claim. She stated that she had recently turned 81 and then recounted the route of the regiment, the officers and families she remembered, the work she performed, the march to Virginia, and the surrender at Yorktown. The deposition was created for a pension case, not as a polished memoir, which gives its details unusual value. Officials required elderly applicants to prove service that had taken place more than 50 years earlier, often without complete papers or surviving witnesses. Sarah's memory supplied the evidence. Her claim eventually brought financial recognition connected to Aaron Osborn's service, but the document accomplished something larger. It preserved the daily work of camp women in a federal record otherwise dominated by enlisted men. Sarah Osborn Benjamin deserves remembrance not because she briefly spoke with Washington, but because her service explains how armies survive. The Continental Army's wives and camp followers cooked rations, laundered filthy clothing, repaired uniforms, nursed the sick, raised children on the march, and sometimes carried food under fire. Their labor was ordinary only in the sense that it had to be repeated every day. At Yorktown, Sarah turned issued provisions into a hot meal and moved it to the soldiers who were digging and defending the siege works. Decades later, she insisted that this work belonged in the nation's official memory. Her deposition allows her to stand not as a legend called Molly Pitcher, but as a named woman with a root, a family, a sharp voice, and a documented place in the campaign that secured American independence.